Hello, my name's Toby and welcome to my usual Friday vlog. If you were with us last week, I think I ended by talking about something I labelled as willful blindness and the risk of not being able to see harms that were in plain sight. And I wanted to just start this week by acknowledging that I know at the moment inside our organisation that there are patients who have come to specific harm, staff who are in extraordinarily difficult situations, perhaps more right now than is typical in our organisation over the last couple of years. And I'm not going to get into individual detail or circumstance, but I didn't want to launch into this week's vlog without recognising that there'll be some people listening to this where some of the conversation has an air of unreality to it, because there are really difficult situations with patients who have harmed themselves or perhaps others, where we are working through our practice and we are working through our feelings and the best way to care and look after somebody. And of course, as we go into the summer of this year, the organisation's big push is going to be delivering on Promise 19, where we look to tackle the use of out-of-area placements. I was signing a complaint response for a family just this week whose care was proceeding down in Surrey. And even though I'm sure at the time that was the right and most unavoidable choice that we had to make, it really reminded me of the distances that are sometimes involved in this thing we call out-of-area placements. So for reasons of quality of care, for reasons of family and home connection, and for reasons of not wasting large quantities of public money, we will be having a right shove over the course of the next year, trying to eliminate inappropriate out-of-area placements in our organisation. So just as agency workers and agency cost was the big push of the year that just ended in the 12 months ahead, I think it's fair to say we had the clinical leadership executive just this week. The big push you will see from the most senior parts of this organisation is around the safe stopping of out-of-area placement use in our organisation. Perhaps taking a little bit longer is to pick up the point that Tinashe made 2 vlogs ago. There's an enormous amount of fantastic work going on across our organisation on this thing we call poverty proofing, which is an inclusive and participatory audit model that then leads to specific changes that we might make, either in a given service or team or across our organisation. We have to make our organisation accessible, usable, available to people regardless of the economic circumstance in which they find themselves. We had the privilege, and it was a privilege as a board public health committee this week, to have Lorna and Nicola from the Rotherham EIP team come and talk with us about their experience of going through that process. And it really brought home to me the enormous value of a team having the time and the space to participate, to listen, to talk about these issues. We all kind of intellectually grasp what might be going on, but to actually live through the process of consideration and then the process of action feels really important. So there's a series of slides on the screen which describe the sequence of how we're going to, in the jargon, roll that process out across our organisation over the next year and a half in service of Promise 6, but also in service of the deep need I think there is in our communities to make sure that we are meeting people where they are at a time when, for example, disability benefits, and you know that half of people in poverty in this country either are themselves disabled or care for somebody who is, at a time when disability benefits are again under policy discussion or policy attack, depending on your point of view. It could not be more important for us as people who look after those, often in difficult circumstances, to be focusing on this issue. So not only do I make no apology, but I draw real strength from what Lorna and Nicola were saying to us as a board team. Next week, we have a board meeting. All of our board meetings are in public. This one is in Barton-on-Humber. You can, if you have a spare 6 or 8 hours, fast forward through the recording that will be on our website the week after next of what was discussed. But the kind of things we're going to be touching on this time, we'll be talking quite a lot about volunteers. We have 50 volunteering placements to make over the course of the next 8 weeks. And I know that Stuart Green, Paula Rylett and Steve Forsyth are very focused in that space. We will talk again about the work we're doing on the future of inpatient care in our organisation, recognising we've had to make the emergency closure of the Brambles ward in Rotherham, but acknowledging too all of the efforts that we're going to be making over the course of the next 12 months to meet national culture of care standards, to reduce our amenable, avoidable admissions into care where there's a better alternative, and most importantly, perhaps to making sure that staff working in our wards feel safer and are less exposed to violence and abuse. The board inevitably will spend time on the NHS's financial position. It feels like every vlog now I'm mentioning that, and I must get out of the habit. But there's some positive news in there, because we will be looking at the capital programme, the one-off big expenditures that we'll make over the next year. There's £5-6 million in that pot, and the intent to invest in Hazel and Hawthorne and in Great Oaks remains the heart of that programme. We'll also be looking to make sure that particularly our inpatient environments are neurodiversity suitable. 1 in 5 of the patients we look after in a mental health inpatient ward may well have autism in their life, and so it's really important that our environments are accessible. Now, in the end, inpatient care for all of our patients comes down to human factors, to team behaviours, to the quality of expertise and compassion we have among our teams. But we can enhance those experiences with the right environment. I spent time doing an out-of-hours visit the other day to Sandpiper Ward, and I spent time with the team there and with the patients thinking about how sometimes when we make those investments, we perhaps don't end up doing the follow-through that really makes sure that those capital changes work for staff and patients. So important to put the money in, important to make the right decisions about configuration with clinical advice, and then important to love the space and to follow through. So there's a lot going on, isn't there? I started with some of the challenges that staff are facing day to day. I've talked about some of those long-term programs in terms of capital investment and in terms of poverty proofing. And I've touched on the very immediate surge for volunteers that is going on across our organisation. If there's ever anything you want me to talk about, get in touch. But I hope you find these films useful as we try and have a conversation in our organisation about what's really going on and perhaps where we're headed over the coming months. Thanks for listening.